Super Mario 64 pioneered the 3D platformer genre. Heck, it practically invented it. What can I say that hasn't already been said? It's a game that's near and dear to countless fans' hearts, and it played a huge role in making the Nintendo 64 become successful. Personally, I never played Super Mario 64 growing up. That's because I didn't own it. I had no idea it even existed. I wasn't aware of Super Mario 64 until the GameCube was released. After all, that's where I got my first taste of 3D Mario. But more on that in another video. My view on Super Mario 64 is not correlated with any nostalgia or any fond memories. I'll be looking at this title with a critical eye, and I should add that this is my first time playing Super Mario 64 to completion. One more thing, before I start, let me get this out of the way. I will not be bringing up the Nintendo DS remake. I might cover that game at a later date. We will see. Well, with all that said, let's see just how well Super Mario 64 has held up. Super Mario 64 began development around 1993. Miyamoto conceived the idea of a full-on 3D Mario title while working on Star Fox for the SNES. Planned on creating the Mario title using the FX chip, but instead reformulated the idea for the Nintendo 64. And this has nothing to do with the overall computing power of the SNES, it was apparently because the controller for the Nintendo 64 had more buttons for gameplay. Miyamoto's team was around 15 to 20 people, which is just crazy to think about. Super Mario 64 would go on to be a commercial and critical success, selling over 11 million copies and ushering in 3D Mario titles as its own side series, I guess you could call it that. I mean, the side-scrolling platformers are considered to be mainline, so I suppose the 3D titles would fall under spin-offs. Our story takes place primarily in Peach's castle. Peach has been kidnapped by guess who, and it's up to Mario to save her. In order for this to happen, Mario has to collect a certain number of Power Stars that Bowser has stolen. Very cut and dry. Find the Power Stars, defeat Bowser, save Peach, in the end. It's a Mario title no matter how you look at it, so very little narrative or exposition, and that's fine I suppose. It was nice to hear some voice acting, and we have Charles Martinet making his debut as Mario on a console title. And of course he became the voice of Mario. I couldn't imagine anyone else tackling the character. Even with limited dialogue, he has become synonymous with Mario himself. A part of me would have liked a little more something in the storytelling department, maybe flesh some things out, I don't know, I just wanted more, but it's what I've come to expect from any Mario title, and the real meat is where the gameplay lies. Super Mario 64 has a brilliant setup. As soon as you take control of Mario, you're greeted to a semi-open world environment, and it encourages the player to try the controls. This is all new and fresh, so run around and get used to it. See how Mario's mobility feels like. What moves can you pull off that you've never done before? It immediately lets the player know that this is not your typical Mario adventure. Personally, I felt Mario's mobility was good. Everything in his moveset felt fluid enough, and I never had any major issues pulling anything off whatsoever. The only move I felt was underutilized for me personally was Mario's punch-kick combo. After you get yourself acquainted with how Mario feels, you are told to head into the castle. Once you head inside, it's time to collect some Power Stars. Now I love level progression like this. Let me explain. In order to collect the Power Stars, Mario must enter paintings, which act as new levels. Each painting has 6 Power Stars, excluding the 100 coin star. Here's where things get good. In what order you collect these Power Stars are completely up to the player. Having trouble in Cool Mountain? No problem, try out your luck at Shifting Sandland. Non-linear progression is always a good thing, and Super Mario 64 welcomes it. Constantly diving through multiple paintings keeps things very varied for me and allowed me to not feel like my progression was at a standstill because the current level I was in. In total, you need 70 stars to take on Bowser for the final time and beat the game. But how you collect those stars is 100% up to you. On top of that, a large portion of the Power Stars felt rewarding when I found one, because each stage only has 6, most feel like a good challenge. Now, the 100 coin stars are a different story. As the name states, collect 100 coins and boom, you have a star. But that star spawns wherever you receive the last coin, so keep that in mind if you plan on going for them. One thing I did enjoy about the 100 coins missions is that they allow you to explore the level from top to bottom, and because of this you get a great sense of familiarity with each level. And this allows you to easily traverse any part of the level when it comes to returning for more Power Stars, which is also very similar to the red coin star missions as well. Aside from paintings, you do have the option to track down the secret stars. They aren't terribly difficult, so keep an eye out for them. Most levels I found myself in were very enjoyable with really good level design. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't always trying to avoid going into Jolly Rogers Bay or Dire Dire Docks, but that's simply because I'm not too fond of any underwater levels in 3D platformers. Mario does have some new items, or caps I should say, to beef up his arsenal. These new caps include the Wing Cap, Metal Cap, and Vanish Cap. Now I didn't find much use for these, excluding when they were mandatory for collecting a Power Star. Outside of game progression, I didn't use them, and maybe that's the way they were intended. I would have liked it if they were scattered around each level so you could experiment with them and see what cool techniques you could come up with, although the Wing Cap would probably be of the most benefit and that would hinder gameplay, so maybe not such a great idea on my end. I should mention that at the time of writing this review, I only have 71 Power Stars, so maybe if I decide to go for all 120, I will have some more hands-on time with each cap. That's right, I have yet to 100% this game, and let me tell you why. The camera. You may have heard this before, but good gosh, is the camera in this game constantly fighting you, and this is really my biggest gripe with Super Mario 64. Now, to be fair, this is the first 3D title to allow the player free control of the camera, to some degree. It's tough really considering this as a fault, it's simply a product of its time, and it's the first to do so of course it wasn't going to be perfect. I really struggled on how I should feel about this and how it should impact my view on the game. You could argue that it's poor design, but there was nothing before it, so what could we truly compare it to? I understand 3D platformers were out at the time, but nothing on the same scale as Super Mario 64. The camera led to a lot of frustrating moments for me, and it made some of the simplest maneuvers at times feel almost impossible. I will say it's rough around the edges, but in no way is it unplayable. Last but not least, one of the most important parts of any video game in my opinion is the soundtrack, and let me tell you, Super Mario 64 knocks this one out of the park. Such a lovely soundtrack, most songs really give you that sense of wonder or mystery, perfect for a game like Super Mario 64. So would I recommend you play Super Mario 64 today? Well, that all depends on if you want to see where things started for 3D sandbox Mario titles. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot to enjoy here and I had a pleasant time. But if you want a 3D Mario experience, you do have better options, which I will be talking about soon. Super Mario 64 is certainly a product of its time as I mentioned earlier, but it does have a solid amount of redeeming qualities. I don't know if I will be revisiting Super Mario 64 or going after every Power Star for 100% completion, but my time in Peach's Castle surely won't be forgotten. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.